strong.
Chapter 141, One Cut with Me. When Ye Tianzi and his entourage came to the stands, Luo Tianzi and the others saw them. Ye Fusion, the rest of his life, and Ye Wuchen finally appeared. Chu Quangren looked at several people, with a faint smile in his eyes, and sometimes a cold glint. Yan Qi looked sharp and looked forward to it. Luo Junlin also looked at Ye Fusion. It seems that today, there will be a good show. In a position next to Luo Junlin, there was a beautiful woman sitting there. That woman who accompanied Luo Junlin to drink alcohol on the lake island yesterday, was called Shen Ruoshfang. At this time, she had light makeup on her face, devoid of the previous night's charm. With the beauty of gentleness and serenity, like the temperament of a family, she gave herself to the Prince of Luo Junlin last night, and today she has a place beside the prince. Many nobles and nobles looked at her with their hearts like mirrors, thinking of the Shen family girl. There are some ways that Zhengong is not very hopeful, but they may get the status of the room. The dance in the hall was a step back for the emperor of the southern Du kingdom, and even concubines with the worst concubines. Many people under the platform to listen to the wind party also recognized Shen Ruoshfang. She also participated in listening to the wind party, and was the famous beauty of Wang Cheng, was eliminated in listening to the wind party yesterday, but did not expect to receive the mercy of the prince. Shen Ruoshfang glanced at Ye Fusion, his eyes were a little cold, but he did not speak. Ye Fusion didn't care about the eyes that fell on his body. He sat quietly, looking at the 9 battle platforms in front, and the enthusiastic crowd, his eyes were very calm. At this time, in the distant void, several rays of light suddenly shot out, and I saw several figures standing proudly in the sky, led by a person whose temperament was extraordinary, like a king in the sky. Brother Luo, such a happy event, why am I not invited to drink? The person who went to the void said. Hearing his title, many people trembled, and the people who were equal to Luo Tianzi were naturally also Tianzi characters. The emperor of the Mo kingdom came, and it was full of glory. Luo Tianzi stood up to meet him and said, please sit down and watch the ceremony together. Haha, I'm here to have fun. Another voice came. Above the sky behind the crowd, a dazzling light bloomed, and a figure bathed in red light stepped forward. Congratulations to the prince of the Nandu kingdom for worshipping the palace of the suspended kings, and then a prince. Said the newcomer loudly, full of aura. I didn't expect Hongye Guoshenzi to arrive, please. Dongling Guo came to Henan Dao Guo to listen to the wind party. Some people stepped into the void. He Luojun from the Tianlo kingdom came to the palace of the suspended kings. The opposite direction of the emperor of the Dongling kingdom also came. Listening to the sky above the battle platform, 4 emperors appeared. Congratulations. Seeing the dazzling and incomparable figure of the emperor, many people in Nandu country trembled with enthusiasm, and the day of the final battle to hear the wind feast party came, and 4 more emperors came. Today, the 8 emperors, watching the ceremony, listening to the wind and feasting. What a big event. After Luo Tianzi ascended the throne, the Nandu country has never had more than 300 years of history. Everyone naturally understands that it is not just about listening to the wind party. If only to listen to the wind party, Luo Tianzi personally invited the 3 emperors to attend the party. Obviously, they received the news that Prince Luojun came to worship the temple of the suspended kings. They successively descended into the king's city and remained hidden until they appeared together at this time, as if they agreed. Luo Tianzi's eyes were full of smiles. The 4 emperors who came were all emperor characters from the surrounding kingdoms. There are neighboring countries Yanchu and Great Yan. Now come to congratulate him, even if he is the emperor, still feels very noble, with a light on his face. Brothers, please come to the table at will. Luo Tianzi said with a smile, and immediately the 4 emperors descended on the chairs and fell randomly, appearing in different directions. Ye Tianzi and the other 3 emperors watched the scene quietly, but their hearts were a bit churned. Did the emperors of the 4 kingdoms also come alone? It seems that they also paid attention to the news of the wind party, otherwise they wouldn't have come just like that. Hurry up from this scene, they seem to see the future rise of the Nandu country. Ye Fusion is also watching quietly, watching Luo Tianzi proudly, and watching the enthusiastic crowd. All of them were brought by Luo Junlin to join the Hanging King temple. It was as if for today's Nandu country, it was destined to be unprecedented and worthy of a national celebration. It was a pity that the people of the Nandu kingdom were afraid of being disappointed. Let's get started, Luo Tianzi said with a smile. Suddenly a mountain sound was heard in the crowd. Then, the 9 great stages, the 18 Tianzhou demons, stepped onto the 9 stages, and ushered in their final showdown. Each platform will welcome the best characters in the scene. Western Building. Yun Tianhao. Sometimes there are voices from the enthusiastic crowd, such as the supporters of the Tianzhao character. Based on their anti-natural talent, many people on the battlefield conquered many people with extraordinary strength and were worshipped by people. For example, Yun Tianhao, he came out of the 7-star world battlefield and hit the 8-star world battlefield. He's still undefeated. Once the ranks are out, no one can compete, even if the people of the 9-star glory world are within him. In front of me, it's the same. The most dazzling person in glory is Yun Tianhao. Other than him, it probably belonged to Jing Shan, a demonic figure in 9-star glory. His strength was extremely terrifying, and he should be able to go against ordinary laws. 9 battle platforms, one after another. Above the battle platform, the situation shook, and below the battle platform, the sound of the waves trembled. Every strongest evil spirit character appears on the battlefield, and every battle is thrilling. Brother, what is the genius of the Nindu kingdom when I listen to the Wind Party? Luo Tianzi said with a smile on the stand. In the future, these people will grow up, and they will become the pillars of the Nindu country, Tianzi praised. It is really amazing, at least it should be much better than the Tianzhou born by Feng Huayan. Emperor Dian Emperor said. Ye Fusion glanced at each other coldly. At this time, these heavenly sons have a clear tendency to speak, and they don't want to offend Luo Tianzi. However, Ye Tianzi ignored him and looked at him calmly. Even he also admitted that the strong people in the 9 battle platforms listening to the Wind Party were very talented and very strong. Without Ye Fusion, the rest of his life, and Ye Wu Dust, perhaps his elegant party, would indeed look overshadowed. He suddenly thought that if Luo Tianzi didn't force Ye Fusion and the rest of his life into his country of Kangye, it would be a big event for this listening party. Finally, battle after battle ended, and the victors did not leave the battlefield. They were the most dazzling geniuses in this party session. Among the crowd, the people in the East China Sea Palace saw a figure standing proudly on the battlefield of the 8-star kingdom, and they all smiled in relief. Even though Zhuo King was eliminated, Yun Tianhao arrived at the end. And defeated an opponent with an extremely strong posture, becoming the only existence on that platform. Yun Tianhao was his disciple from the East China Sea Academy. Among the crowd of Donghai Zugong, the Tang Palace Lord of Gocheng Haigong Zugong was also there, along with Tang Yu. Originally, he was somewhat entangled in Tianyu Mountain and Ye Fusion. Now he saw the young Yun Tianhao. At this step, they are all proud and happy. They naturally saw Ye Fusion on the battlefield. I heard that he is also a peerless monster. Once he and Yun Tianhao were rivals. I didn't expect that they had become Tianzhou country, but now Yun Tianhao will not be weaker than Ye Fusion. The 9 figures finally stood on the 9 battle platforms and enjoyed the ultimate glory. The strongest character in each field listening to the Wind Party was finally born. Luo Tianzi smiled. For these 9 people, he was quite satisfied. His talent is very high, and he will cultivate it well in the future, or he can become a powerful assistant to his son Luo Zhenlin. The 9 strongest people who listened to the Wind Party were born. Now that the geniuses of our 4 kingdoms are gathered here, can we prove each other's martial arts? At this time, Chu Quangren said with a smile. The 3 kingdoms of Yunchu, Kangye, and Dian want to test your strength. Are you fighting? Please enlighten me. Battle. 9 people trembled from the war. Very good. Luo Tianzi nodded in satisfaction, looking at the character of the 3 kingdoms Tianzhou, said, it's up to you. Chu Quangren nodded, and looked at Kang Yeguo, said, avoiding everything today, now he will finally appear. Listening to today's Wind Party, there should be no reason to avoid war. With that said, the madman's eyes fell directly on Ye Fusion and Ye Wuchen and the others. On the battle platform, Yun Tianhao's eyes also shot towards Ye Fusion, and he said loudly, Ye Fusion, how dare you fight? The sound of the waves surged, and Yun Tianhao brought Feng Huayan's first glory of 8 stars to challenge Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion's appearance was as calm as usual, whether it was the provocation of the people of the Yunchu kingdom or the challenge of Yun Shenhao, he could not make his heart wave. I saw him look up, looked at Chu Quangren and Yun Tianhao, and smiled, challenge us, but at a price, can you buy it? Ye Fusion's voice is very calm, it is far less brilliant than Chu Quangren and Yun Tianhao, but this calm voice contains incomparable arrogance. It was as if the Yunchu kingdom and the most evil people who listened to the Wind Party were not taken into account at all. Challenge me, the cost, can you buy it? You pay whatever you want, Chu Madman coldly replied. Battle, Yun Tianhao spat out a word, and the battle was shocking. Ye Fuxian turned his head, looking at Ye Tianzi who was sitting behind him. Today, the 8 great heavenly suns are gathered here, and the sights of Luo Tianzi are endless. The heavenly suns were close to him. If Ye Tianzi thought that he couldn't fight, he gave up. However, when he saw Ye Tianzi's eyes fall on him, he smiled freely and said, "It's all on me." Chapter 142, My Name for the Rest of My Life. Okay. Ye Fuxian smiled when he heard Ye Tianzi's words. Ye Fuxian stood up and stared at the battlefield, countless eyes fell on him. Will the Tianzhou Four Kingdoms battle begin? Yun Tianhao looked at Ye Fuxian, his fighting spirit rushed over, and he felt an excited fighting spirit in Yun Tianhao's body. The rest of my life. At this time, I only heard Ye Fuxian shouting softly. The rest of his life looked at Ye Fuxian, and at this time Ye Fuxian looked at the vast and endless crowd of the Nandu kingdom, smiled, and said, "Today's war is attracting national attention. Hearing the Battle of the Wind Party will definitely spread throughout Nandu." For the rest of his life, his heart moved slightly, and he understood Ye Fuxian's meaning. If the teacher was still in Nandu country, he could find out today's war. The rest of your life, this is your fight, Ye Fuxian continued, let them know who you are. Okay. The rest of his life nodded, and then he got out of the seat. The surrounding people looked at the two in surprise, and their conversation seemed to have deep meaning. Is this battle your whole life? The rest of the life stepped down the battle platform, looked at Yun Tianhao, said, "Remaining life, 8-star glory." Yun Tianhao, 8-star kingdom. Seeing Ye Fuxian still not playing, Yun Tianhao said coldly, "If you want to fight, then beat you first." The words fell, the soul appeared, and the light of the array flashed. He took one step forward, one step at a time, and the aura between heaven and earth gathered wildly in his body. Yun Tianhao had seen the rest of the battle for himself. Although he was very confident in his combat strength, he would not underestimate the enemy. Like feeling Yun Tianhao's war will and powerful momentum, the sound of mountains and tsunamis came from heaven and earth. Yun Tianhao took first place on the platform with a very dazzling attitude, and was promoted in battle. He has no match. Today, he will step on the other 3 Tianzhou kingdoms to prove himself. In this battle, Tianzhou Yunshanhao country Nandu is destined to move the world. The eyes of countless people, such as the East China Sea Academy, Hailing Academy, all fell on Yun Tianhao. They already knew the strength of their remaining lives, but this battle would be Yun Tianhao's. Hey! At this time, the earth let out a loud noise, and everyone saw the heavy steps in the rest of his life. His body turned into a bow and dashed towards the battle platform. Oh, oh, oh! Every step in the rest of my life, the earth will shake, as if it has a beautiful rhythm. The earth vibration is especially dull in the sound of the mountain tsunami. Yun Tianhao watched the rest of his life running towards the battle platform. His steps also stepped out, the matrix formation, the space around him, as if there was an altar, 4 directions, there was a mysterious light fiercely flung out, one terrible fire dragon was swirling, and the flames the fire wants to devour everything. What was even scarier was that in the extremely hot space, there was a frozen sky. Ice and fire are incompatible, but when 2 forces appear together, their destructive power will be terrible. Seeing this magnificent formation, the crowd in the Nandu kingdom seethed and inspired. Is this the strength of Tianzhou Yunshanhao in the Wind Party? Some girls show obsessed eyes, this is the real genius. Boom! With a loud bang, the rest of his life came to the battle platform. With his footsteps, his body bounced, appeared right above the battle platform, and then landed towards Yun Tianhao. Countless eyes stared at the fallen body for the rest of its life. At this moment, he looked like a god. On that burly body, a dazzling golden armor was worn, and a terrifying ghost appeared on him, like a demon. A figure descending from the sky with unstoppable power, Yun Tianhao shouted furiously. The world was covered by ice, the body of the living remnant seemed to be frozen. The fire dragon swirled, and merged into the ice body of the living remnant. Under the power, it is enough to make people die. However, they found that the **** body did not stop at all. The frozen power was crushed, the burly body was bathed in the power of ice and fire, and the fire dragon roared and swallowed it. The rest of this moment is like the real God of heaven. How could it be? Yun Tianhao stared in horror at the descending figure like a god, before he could react again, and the rest of his life descended. Click. A clear sound came out, and the violent aura that flew within the formation was insane. Everyone found it shocking that the body that descended like a god stepped directly on Yun Tianhao's shoulder. His shoulder blade was broken. Yun Tianhao screamed. Then he knelt down, and a terrifying force pushed him to the ground. Lower. The array of laws collapsed, the eyes of the vast and endless crowd of the Nandu kingdom all froze, and the sound of the mountain tsunami suddenly ended. The whole world is dead. Time seemed to stop flowing. The whole world seemed silent. At the wind banquet, the incomparably dazzling Tianzhao Yunshenhao, the captivating genius who was admired by many, was trampled directly by the figure that fell from the sky, without liking, without pause, directly kneeling. Genius. Fenwa peerless. Nandu's country is unrivaled. The rest of his life facing endless crowds in Nandu country, seeing that stern and indifferent face, the people in Nandu country felt that they would never forget this cruel move. Not only was it trampled on Yun Tianho's body, but also on the faces of everyone in Nandu country. Yun Tianhao was one of the smartest geniuses they had chosen in 10 years. For the rest of his life, he took a step forward, then squatted down, grabbed Yun Tianho's neck, and threw his body directly at the crowd of Nandu kingdom. Then he didn't look at him anymore, as if in his eyes, Yun Tianhao, this noble character, was simply not worth seeing. For the rest of his life, he turned his head to look at the people from Yunchu country and Yan country, and said coldly, "Who is coming?" Regardless of the Tianzhao of the Yunchu country or the Dayan country, their eyes stared at the figure, and nothing came out. Was Yun Tianhao really that weak? They saw Yun Tianhao kill to the end, his talent was undoubted. However, when the rest of his life came like a heavenly god, Yun Tianhao didn't even have the ability to resist. How can someone like that fight? There was silence in the space. Ye Wuchen glanced at Chu Mania, and said coldly, "Are you stupid now?" The arrogant faces of the two countries were very embarrassed, but they saw that they had ignored them for the rest of their lives, and did not even show them any expression, and walked towards the battlefield next to the 9-star glory world. Then his body ran again. When he reached the end of the battle platform, his footsteps were fierce steps again, a loud sound, and his body shot like a god again, appearing above the battle platform of the 9-star glory. The strongest person in the 9-star glory realm was Jing Shan. As he stared at the rest of his life, fear flashed in his eyes. The figure of the god of the day could not be resisted at all. He gathered all his strength, and the aura around him raged, and then took the initiative to attack, and a violent power exploded into the sky. Yes. With a loud bang, the rest of his body fell in front of Jing Shan, and the battle platform shook. The violent power didn't touch him at all, but roared through him. As one of the most prominent figures in the wind listening party, this should not have happened at all, but in fear, such a satirical scene happened. He suppressed for the rest of his life, and then saw Jing Zuan's body fly off the platform and into the crowd. This battle couldn't even be called a battle. For the rest of his life, he continued to walk to the battlefield side of the first-tier French Empire. He will fight with Su Mu. Is this really crazy? Su Mu, the realm of the first level of lore, is one of the most dazzling figures in this listening party, except for Zillow and Yunshenhao, the voice is the highest. Now, the rest of his life wants to fight Su Mu. Ouch. There was another loud sound, and the body of the rest of his life soared into the air again, was ejected, and came to the first level French royal stage. Su Mu looked up, stared at the blank figure, sneered, his body flashed, and he rose into the air. He was Su Mu, not Yun Tianhao, not even Jing Shan. Many people looked to the rest of their lives. This time, how did he attack? Boom. The wind was so strong that everyone saw behind them the rest of their lives, a pair of huge wings twinkling, and a dark golden shimmer flowed, each with sharp thorns on each feather, like the wings of a demon god. At this moment, the rest of his life seems to be a demon. His wings flickered, and his whole body headed for Su Mu. Su Mu did not dodge. Behind him was a terrifying dragon. When the rest of the life rushed over, Zhenshan's roar came out, and the dragon roared, killing another. The wings of the remnant of life faced forward, and the feathers continuously twisted, and then turned into a sharp and very dark golden vortex. When they opened and closed, they instantly crushed the dragon's body. On top of Su Mu's body, the terrifying dragon body was enormous, like a real big owl, swallowing the body of the rest of his life. The wings opened, and the rest of his life stared straight ahead, like lightning, and rushed straight to the big cicada. Under the shocking gaze of everyone, he rushed to the dragon's mouth. Boom! The dragon's body exploded, and its whole body rushed out. Su Mu's face was embarrassed, and an extremely violent momentum bloomed fiercely. He turned into a dragon and rushed to the rest of his life, Faxiang and his body, as if become one. The dragon was swallowed. The rest of his life stretched his hand forward and grabbed the dragon's mouth. He shouted, and an endless force fell on his arm. The rest of his life using his hands to tear the dragon apart, Su Mu screamed loudly. damaged. The wings behind the rest of the life changed, and Yu Fei dislocated, and turned into a tentacle to seize Su Mu's body, so he lifted him up in the void. Seeing the scene in front of me, the huge and endless crowd stared at the demon-like figure, his heart quivering madly. The rest of his body was suspended in the air, looking at the endless figures in front of him, his eyes were fierce, and he shouted, "My name is Yu Sheng, Nandu Donghai City, Donghai Zugong Palace, Palace Master, Yizhang disciple, the rest of my life." A loud sound swept through the world and vibrated in the eardrums of the Nandu kingdom. His name for the rest of his life, the East Sea City of the Nandu country, the disciple of Yizhang, the master of the Wuku Palace of the Tokai Academy, and the rest of his life. Chapter 143, The First Day of the Kangye Kingdom. The rest of my life. At this moment, the people of Nandu country remembered that name forever. The voice was like a sign, imprinting the names of the rest of their lives in their minds. His name for the rest of his life. Someone from Nandu country's Eastern Sea City, a disciple of Yizhang. They thought, who is Yi Xiang? Why did Tokai Zugong have such an outstanding disciple, but fight for the Kangye kingdom? And Yun Tianhao, he seems to be Donghai Zugong's best disciple, right? What about the rest of my life? At this point, the people of the Donghai Learning Academy were speechless, and they didn't know what it was like, and the people of the Yuncheng Black Palace Academy, their high hopes Yun Tianhao received a lot of attention, but what about it? At this moment, the three great Tianzhao figures had become the foil of the rest of their lives. Ye Fusion looked at the figure with a smile, of course, he understood why the rest of his life was roaring. After this battle, the name of the rest of his life would spread throughout Nandu country and become a legend. Since he is from Donghai City and is from Donghai Zugong, this voice will soon become popular in Donghai City. As long as Yi Xiang was still around, he would definitely be able to hear the voices of his disciples listening to the Wind Party. Senior Yi, this disciple and son-in-law, you will not lose it. Ye Fusion said secretly in his heart, with a bright smile on his face. He thought, what kind of expression will the old fox in Yi Xiang find out? In addition to Ye Fusion, the people of the Kangye kingdom looked at the wings that were born behind the rest of their lives, and their hearts also trembled. In Kangye Guo Feng Hua Ban, is it true that the rest of life has a hidden power? In other words, those demon-like wings are cultivated only when they come to the Nandu kingdom. He used to be in the 7-star glory realm because he couldn't control the air, but he couldn't help the far phase. Now he is the 8-star glory world of the demon ***** wings. Not to mention them, even the 8 emperors present today are quite shocked. The lifelong battle method is too violent, they are crushed with absolute power, ignoring everything, letting your spells be shocked, and letting your means be used. I broke the law myself and destroyed everything. In Luo Tianzi's eyes, there was a strong intent to kill. At one time, he only wanted to kill Ye Fusion and Hua Jiu. Now, he discovered that he had lost one person. For the rest of his life, the Yizhang disciples of Wukugong Palace said to Yizhang, how arrogant, by listening to the Wind Party platform, stepping on Tianzhao listening to the Wind Party, telling his teacher Yi Xiang that he is here. Next to Luo Tianzi, Luo Junlin and Hua Zhang's eyes are both murderous. Shen Ruoshwang's beautiful eyes next to Luo Junlin froze there. Last night, he quipped that the rest of his life was so bad. Tonight, a demon-like figure, who dares to use bad words to describe him. Even Zhao Xiang, who was very calm at this time, raised his eyes and looked at the rest of his life, saw a demon-like figure, and he looked at Ye Fusion in the direction of the Kangye kingdom again. He only measured the fate of Ye Fusion and Hua Jiu, and now it turns out that there is still a terrible existence around Ye Fusion, and Ye Fusion has such an anti-day fate. All of this is set. The queen is here, and the star is here too. Crown Prince Luo Junlin was cherished by the palace of the kings of kings. The emperors of the 8 kingdoms gathered. All parties come to the north. Everyone thought that the Nandu kingdom would rise in the land of hundreds of countries, but where would they think that this was the beginning of a disaster? If God wanted to make him die, he had to drive him crazy. On the battlefield, the rest of his life glanced at the large crowd. The Raman who just seemed to have really let go of his depression lately. Then his wings flickered, and the rest of his life turned toward the pulpit. He didn't continue the fight. Enough to do it here. The teacher must be able to hear his voice. As soon as he asked, he would know that he was fighting for the emperor of the Kangye kingdom, and he would naturally go to the Kangye kingdom to meet him. When the rest of his life returned to the pulpit, the wings had been removed, and the Tianzhao in the Kangye Guofeng Hubang list looked different to him, with respect and jealousy. The roar of the rest of my life only makes them tremble inside. They remembered the dialogue between the rest of their lives and Zhao Qianfan, the prince, but that was only the realm of spiritual practice. Is it strong? Maybe now for the rest of my life, but 10 or 20 years later. One day he won the prince's fortune. I am afraid he can become a proud prince. Ye Tianzi's gaze towards the rest of his life was more appreciated, not only because of his talent, but also because of the meaning behind the roar. Fang Huaiyan won the top 3 for the rest of his life, and the proposed condition was to find his master. Now listening to the Wind Party battlefield, the first battle is shocking, but the goal is the same. As the son of heaven, he is jealous of Yi Xiang, and wants to see how the master of the rest of his life will be. Although the rest of the life stepped out of the battlefield, the space seemed very quiet, and the previous mountain and tsunami seemed to have been a long time ago. Previously, listening to the Wind Party made the people of Nandu country enthusiastic, so that everyone's emotions were at their peak. People seemed to be witnessing the prosperity of the Nandu country. But the appearance of the rest of his life interrupts everything, looking back at the party, like a joke. Once every 10 years, only one battle can erase everything. Is that matchless? This is true style that is unmatched. One can overcome the light of all people, overcome all the pride that is born on the feast of the wind. Fight back. Seeing that the space was a little dull, Ye Tianzi opened his mouth with a smile. At this moment, he seems full of confidence. The rest of his life made him feel refreshed. The Battle of the Four Kingdoms is just one battle, and of course we must continue. Chu Kuangren said. Now the rest of his life is invited to fight, and Yun Chu and Dian are undeniable and seem very shameless. Much stronger than the so-called third list Fenwa in intelligence, it shocked everyone. But the heavenly pride of the Yunchu kingdom and Dian kingdom are not weak people. There's no need to bother. A cold voice came out, and then saw Ye Wuchen's figure standing up and said lightly, after a few days, I didn't have the courage to fight in the end. If you shut up early. Chu Kuangren looked at Ye Wuchen, his face was very ugly. Just now, facing no one fighting for the rest of his life, they couldn't refute. Anyone who wants to come to yourself. Ye Wuchen's voice dropped. Jian Yisheng, his body shot like a sword, and in a split second, he landed on the platform where Yun Tianhao was before. Everyone's eyes were on Ye Wuchen, and he saw that he was standing on his hands. The clouds were light and the wind was light, and it felt very relaxed, which seemed to be facing a war. Brother Yan, are you here or am I? Chu Kuangren looked at Yan Qi, the great country of Yan, and the two of them developed a second-order state, just like Ye Wuchen. You can be together, Ye Wuchen said calmly. Arrogant, Yan Qi said coldly, he refines the sword, I refines the sword, I will come to this battle. Okay. Chu Madman looked at Ye Wuchen equally indifferently. Yan Qi stood up, immediately stepped in form, rose into the air, and walked in the void. There was a terrible knife on his body, as if it cut through everything. Yan Qi, the grand arrogance of the great Yan kingdom, was held captive by the prince of the opposite sex, and his sword once cut the strongest in the fourth order method. Step by step, Yan Qi went to the battle platform, and the sword crashed into the sky, as if an invisible blade was slashing, trying to cut Ye Wuchen's body. Ye Wuchen looked up, and when he glanced at him, there was a sword-like explosion that shattered the intent like a sword. Two extremely violent breaths collided in the empty space. A large knife appeared in Yan Qi's hand, and his body suddenly sped up, like lightning, and then the knife slashed, and the wind wrapped around the knife. At this moment, thousands of blade lights split up at the same time. Ye Wuchen raised a finger, as if there was an endless sword intent blooming with this finger, and the sword light was constantly being annihilated under the endless sword intent. Yan Qi's body spun in the void, the sword changed, and a more terrifying sword came. Then he cut the second sword, which was stronger than the previous one. Ye Wuchen's expression remained calm, his body slowly emptied, and endless swords moved with his body. Around his body, appeared countless sharp swords, real swords. Go. Ye Wuchen's fingers pressed towards the void, and an endless sharp sword whistled, spun wildly at Yan Qi's body. Yan Qi saw that the sword changed in an instant and danced in front of him. The sharp sword that killed him seemed to have turned into a sword vortex and flung his body in all directions. A black knife appeared behind him, and a terrifying knife intent permeated from it. With the bloom of his knife, thousands of knife lights appeared around him, and the weather around his body was impenetrable. Seeing the scene of dustless leaves still visible, around his body, regenerated like an endless sword, accompanied by a finger, and then released furiously, killing Yan Qi. The sharp sword seems to have no limits, everyone sees Yan Qi constantly dancing the sword light, his sword skills are very strong, both in attack and defense, are terrible. However, Ye Wachan's sword seemed to have no limits. When Yan Qi wants to break through the defense and kill him, his sword looks like Yan Qi, and he kills Yan Qi's weakness. This made Yan Qi despair to discover that he could do nothing but endure. Admit defeat, or die. A soft voice came out of Ye Wachan's mouth, and then he saw that he was giving birth with both hands, and the endless swords surrounding Yan Qi's body turned into a sword storm, burying his whole body with the sword. Enter in the void, it seems that there is only a sword and no Yan Qi. I confess. Yan Qi's voice came out in a storm. The next moment, the sword storm instantly dissipated, and the figure of Yan Qi appeared there. But that scene still comes to mind. The people of the Kangye kingdom saw the battle in front of them. It turned out that Ye Wachan had not unleashed his full strength at all, because at that moment, he was invincible. Ye Tianzi should know Ye Wachan's strength best. This is his nephew. In fact, without Ye Fusion and the rest of his life, Ye Wachan would be the first place in Fenghuabang without any tension. However, Ye Fusion lost his strength across the border, but at the Fenba party, there was no match for Ye Wachan. Excluding Ye Fusion and the rest of their lives, Ye Wachan, this is truly the first day of his younger generation from the Kangye kingdom. Chapter 144, Ye Fusion. Ye Wachan's strength once again shocked the people present. Tianjiao's days in Yanchu and Dian were very unnatural. After several provocations, this was the end. For the rest of their lives, there was no need to say more, they didn't even dare to fight, but now Ye Wachan defeated Yan Qi strongly. In these two battles, the Kangye kingdom not only directly suppressed the light of listening to the Wind Party, but also lost the face of the Yunchu kingdom and the Dian kingdom. The Battle of the Four Kingdoms was just two battles, and the Kangye kingdom seemed to be singing a one-man show. As if it confirmed what Ye Wachan had said earlier, he didn't like trouble. Who else? Ye Wachan faintly opened his mouth and didn't say his name. He didn't bother to challenge anyone. If anyone wants to fight, don't hesitate. If you don't dare to fight, then the so-called Battle of the Four Kingdoms is meaningless, so far. Chu Quangrun's eyes were very indifferent, as strong as Yan Qi, was actually suppressed by Ye Wachan so pitifully, that Ye Wachan's life and soul were invisible. Even at this moment, they didn't know what kind of practitioner Ye Wachan was. Sword repair naturally goes without saying, so what else? Is this just a sword repair? If it is just a sword repair, how can it be done in such a way that the sword storm that surrounded Yan Qi before? Each sword seems to have a life of its own, and can find the flaws of Yan Qi. Too scary. A voice came out, not from below, but from above the battle platform. The second stage of the battlefield of the Lower Realm, one of the most dazzling characters in this year's banquet, the West Tower. Ye Wachan turned his gaze, and the two looked at each other from the outside, as if they were at Kixing Lake last night. Two moods were released at the same time, one sharp and one cold. Without speaking, Ye Wachan took a step forward, and suddenly a boundless sword gathered from him, killing the West Tower on the two battle platforms. Zilu's eyes were cold, a terrible mood bloomed on his body, the world became extremely cold, and the dual attribute aura of water and earth filled the air. The swords seemed to be heavy, and they will freeze, and gradually become slow. Before they reached the West Tower, they stopped completely, and the space seemed calm. It's cold. The people near the battle platform shivered, only feeling that the world seemed to be slowing down, and the blood flow seemed to be slowing down. Ye Wachan and Zilu's bodies stepped forward at the same time, respectively, towards the next battle platform, so that each of them occupied the battle platform, and the distance was closer. Ye Wachan's sword became stronger, his fingers stretched forward, Jianxiu shook the sky, crossed the void, and went towards Zilu's body. The breath on Zilu's body was colder, and the world around him became heavier. As everyone knew, this was the terrifying effect of an earth attribute gravity spell and a water attribute ice spell. Many straight ice sculptures appeared in the sky and earth, like the shape of a sword, slowed down a little, and then exploded directly. The west building continued to advance to the edge of the battle platform, and the body slowly hung down. It is indeed one of the most evil characters to listen to the Wind Party. In the hearts of the people of the Nandu kingdom, secretly, in the listening party, Zilu and Yun Tianhao should be the two most noticed. Obviously, Zilu's strength is stronger than Yan Qi's. With Zilu's body hanging, the far face behind him appeared like 2.5 moons. Half moon is water and half moon is earth. Water and earth intertwined and turned into a full moon. The moment the full moon was released, the dual attribute aura of water and earth surrounding it completely dissipated, fusing together madly, trying to cover the world. Then, from the full moon, there was a light that came out. The white light and the bright colored earth light complemented each other, just like Ueva, wherever he went, everything seemed to slow down and even freeze and explode. The sword flowing from Ye Wachan's body shattered in a frantic manner. 2.5 moons of light fell on Ye Wachan's body. The spell is released along with the light of the law phase, and its power is terrifying. This is the actual legal phase. Some of the great personalities were in awe. Zillow was only in the realm of the second phase of the law. Feeling the attacking breath, Ye Wachan's eyes looked a little serious, and behind him, a silver light bloomed out. Then, everyone saw a silver light spread across the sky, a silver sword floated behind Ye Wachan, as if this was his soul. Endless sword intent gathered around the small silver sword, the surging sword intent turned into a river of swords, and came forward, colliding with the light from the 2.5 moon shot. Time and space seem to be stationary, two different forces are in an insane annihilation being destroyed. A terrifying ice spell descended from the surrounding world, turning the vast void into slightly frozen, and burying Ye Wachan's body within it. But when Ye Wachan's eyes seemed to shine with silver light, the next moment, the silver sword instantly cut through the void, rushing into the moonlight, destroying everything in a panic. Zillow reached out and grabbed. The frozen sword froze the silver sword, but when there was an explosion, the spell was broken, and the silver sword continued to advance. The spells kept coming, but they saw the silver sword shining like a fairy, destroying the spell continuously, so fast that the naked eye could not catch its trajectory, and finally accompanied by a terrible buzzing sound. The silver sword appeared directly in Zillow's brow, with a terrifying sword. Zillow did not dodge, his eyes stared at the silver sword, he seemed to see Ye Wachan's eyes. At this moment, he finally knew Ye Wachan's professional practice. You were defeated. Ye Wachan's voice came, and the breath in Zillow's body disappeared, the far face converged, and he lost. Jian Gi, Ye Wachan looked at Zillow, calmly said, good strength. Countless people showed strange appearances. Ye Wachan was clearly the victor, but he said so to the West Tower. However, his voice was so natural, as if it was his original idea, without the pretentious person being genuinely proud. After saying this, Ye Wachan glanced at the Yanchu kingdom and Dian kingdom, and then Yukong returned to the stands of the Kangye kingdom. The large crowd fell silent, and today, the arrogant Tianzhou people who listened to the Wind Party lost everything to no avail. Luo Tianzi's face was all black, and the emperors of other countries looked at all of this calmly. Today, I came here to congratulate and join, I didn't expect to see a big show. Prince Luo Junlin, the prince of the Nandu kingdom, was rewarded by the palace of the suspended kings. It should be a great joy to hear that the Wind Party is perfect, but right now, Luo Tianzi may not be happy. My Kangye Guofeng Wine is held once every 3 years. Can the chosen Tianzhou character still be okay? Ye Tianzi opened his mouth with a smile, feeling even more cheerful. Luo Tianzi invited him to watch the ceremony just to show off. Now, I have to see it. Can you still laugh? The Yanchu and Dian people finally kept their mouths shut this time, and they really didn't say anything. The War of the Four Kingdoms, 2 wars is enough, you can continue, and I can leave Kangye first. Ye Tianzi said again, the spring wind was proud. The Battle of the Four Kingdoms is just 2 confrontations, and it's too early to tell. Luo Tianzi said coldly, and the most dazzling Tianzhou figure chosen by the banquet this time had lost 4. Since both this is the point, how can it be stopped? What does Luo Tianzi mean? Ye Tianzi said coldly. Luo Tianzi looked at the arrogant figures of the Yunchu country and Dian country, and said, you have seen the strength of the second and third rank Fenwa. However, you don't want to be taught how strong the first person in the Fenwa ranking is. Ye Fusion frowned. What was the purpose of Luo Tianzi wanting to force himself to fight? The first person on the Fenwa list avoided the battle from start to finish, and probably only spoke for the benefit. Chu Quangren said. Many people in the Kangye kingdom frowned. This madman is the prince of the Yunchu kingdom, who is too shameless. In other words, he saw that Luo Tianzi deliberately wanted to force Ye Fusion to fight, and deliberately cooperated with Luo Tianzi. Can you shut up? Ye Wachan's eyes were sharp, and he was very upset to see this madman. Who's this? Ye Tianzi did not look at Chu madman, his eyes fell on Luo Tianzi, then smiled, and said to Ye Fusion, since everyone wants to see your strength, as a guest, you can't be rude. Ye Fusion saw Ye Tianzi's gaze, then nodded with a smile, then walked towards the battle platform. He also walked to the platform where Yun Tianhao was before. As he stood on top of it, countless eyes suddenly fell on him. I heard that Ye Fusion is also from Donghai city. As soon as the emperor caught him, he rebelled and turned to the Kangye kingdom. The rest of his previous life was his friend. Kangye Guofeng was ranked 3rd in his remaining life, and he was ranked 1st. The people from the East China Sea Academy and the Nandu family also looked at Ye Fuxian and took a deep breath. At the end of the year, Ye Fuxian showed his unrivaled talent. Now he appeared on the battlefield again. How strong is that? Ye Fuxian, 8-star glory world. Standing on the battle platform, Ye Fuxian looked at the stands and laughed, I have low strength and mediocre talent. In the past, the Fenwa banquet was too lucky to be called number 1 on the Fenwa list. I am afraid. Today, the four kingdoms gathered together. Faced with the dazzling Tianzhou characters such as the Yunchu kingdom and the Dayan kingdom, how dare they go to war so easily, but now that Luo Tianzi asked for it, he had to go out and have to challenge the geniuses of other countries. Cough. Ye Tianzi coughed a little dumbfounded. Is it Ye Fuxian who is arrogant in this Fenwa party? When was it so low? Challenging the environment. Ye Tianzi thinks with your strength, can he still have face? The faces of Tianzhou of the Kangye kingdom are also dark. Lin Yao's eyes flashed. Bai Qiu and Yu Jing was stunned. Never seen such a brazen man. Not only them, but also the Yunchu and Dayan people. Ye Fuxian himself said that his strength and status were mediocre, and Yunchu Goyan and Yangguo Tianzhou were so dazzling. How could they answer such a shameless person? Realm. When they are idiots. Chapter 145, One Stick One Method. Although the people from the Yunchu kingdom and the Dayan kingdom verbally humiliated Ye Fuxian, they obviously didn't really think that the person called Ye Tianzi was the first to rely on luck. Being able to defeat the strongest in the rule of law, even an ordinary rule of law, can definitely be called a demon devil, not to mention the fact that the character he defeated in the rule of law is also on the list, so according to their plan, the one who is ready to deal with the state of law against Fu Ye. However, this shameless person didn't play cards at all. But Ye Fuxian's words were undeniable. He is humble and polite, claims to have low strength, and Yanyunchu Dayan is extraordinary. What can they say? Was there a problem in the battle of the four kingdoms? Talk. Brother Ye laughed and laughed. The first person on the Fenwa list is an ordinary character. Chu Quangren said boldly, but cursed Ye Fuxian shamelessly in his heart. He naturally knew that the same kingdom and Ye Fuxian would be defeated. Brother Ye, do you know me? Ye Fuxian smiled at Chu Quangren with a smile and said, not to mention, didn't you just say that I would only speak out the benefits of my tongue? At this time, I said that I was an ordinary person. After all, what do you mean? Fight or not? Chu Quang's face was all black, and Kang Yeguo turned to look at Chu Quangren's face. He couldn't help but smile, thinking that Ye Fuxian was so bad that he bullied others. Ye Tianzi originally wanted to leave, but Chu Madman had to continue the battle of the four kingdoms. If he didn't make excuses, how could he have the face to say that the glory of fighting against France was glorious? Ye Fuxian, Kang Yeguofeng Wyan likes you to beat the people of the digital world. You are so talented, why pretend to be complacent, that you have a brilliant record, and each of the other three countries sent a first-order French person to the top stage. Decided to win. Luo Tianzi said lightly, many people giving him a surprise expression. Even though Ye Fuxian did have a glorious record, he still had his part in challenging the glory by speaking the law with respect from the Son of Heaven. Ye Fuxian looked at Luo Tianzi. Previously, Ye Tianzi had planned to evacuate. Luo Tianzi, who refused to let him go, forced him to fight. In this case, fulfill him. It turns out that the battle of the four kingdoms means that the Kangye kingdom needs to be glorified, and Luo Tianzi is wise. Ye Fuxian sarcastically opened his eyes, and then glanced at the three powerful countries. Since you have said so, why bother talking about the four kingdoms of war fooling you, and each of your three countries choosing first-rate Falun Gong? Let's go together. Ye Fuxian at this time gathered on his joke movement. His voice was not loud, but at this moment everyone's eyes turned to him. This is the man's real face. He from the 8-star kingdom said to the strong people of the three kingdoms, each of you choose the Fa phase and go together. He must not only fight against the Fa, but also fight against the three kingdoms. For the rest of his life, even though he is domineering, he is not as arrogant as he is. Ye Tianzi looked at the figure on the battle platform. He didn't say anything, because Ye Fuxian said so, then he believed he could do it. Luo Tianzi showed a smile, and Yunchu and Dayan also ordered one person to fight, both of whom were the strongest first-rate French figures. Who wants to fight for me? Luo Tianzi looked at the large crowd. Previously, Su Mu, the most prominent person in the first-order French realm, had been abolished for the rest of his life, and naturally he had to choose someone else. Will fight for His Majesty. Among the crowd, a figure appeared. This is Zhong Yan. People's eyes bulged. The person who appeared was Zhong Yan, the Tianzhou character who previously competed with Su Mu for the first person in the field of first-rate law. The power is very strong. Although it is not as good as Su Mu, it is not much worse. Okay. Luo Tianzi nodded, while at the same time, the powerful First Nations of the Yanchu Kingdom and Dian Kingdom stepped out and headed towards the battlefield where Ye Fuxian was. Zhong Yun's body was hanging, his eyes were on Ye Fuxian on the battle platform. At this moment, countless eyes fell on that handsome figure. 8-star glory, 3 battles. This scene is too crazy. People from the far face of the Yanchu Kingdom wore fire armor and were bathed in the light of the fire. Behind him, a terrifying far face appeared. It was a field of fire, like a magma flame, and it seemed that there was a terrifying fiery liquid flowing in the surrounding heaven and earth field, all red from the flames. Is the state of the law of the first level already so strong? Everyone trembled. The strong Frenchman sent by Dian State is just as terrible. Behind him was a monster ape and a beast, which made it seem like he was full of boundless and terrifying power. He is tough and strong and can destroy everything. The two quickly stepped to the edge of the battle platform, eyes fixed on Ye Fuxian, who was standing in front of them. They also wanted to see how Ye Fuxian beat Fa Xiang. Zhong Yun's body was also hanging on the edge of the battle platform, and a spear appeared in his hand, showing a terrible sharp breath. Ye Fuxian stood in the middle of the battle platform, his breath broke, and a golden staff appeared in his hand. Yanchu Geqiang took a step forward, and suddenly the endless fire light rushed to Ye Fuxian's body, turning into a terrifying fire dragon. Ye Fuxian's golden long stick danced in his hand, and the situation came. Behind him, the golden winged Daping's wings appeared, his wings fluttered, and his body flew in the air. A fire dragon swallowed, and Ye Fuxian's body appeared around him, gathering the potential of heaven and earth, and a faint and extraordinary power spread out from it. Boom! His wings flickered, Ye Fuxian's body turned into a bird with a huge pendant, and he soared in the sky. The 3 men looked up, and saw that her body was shaking, very beautiful, and the trend of terror became stronger. Later, they saw Ye Fuxian rushing towards his powerful compatriot of the Yanchu Kingdom and Law, and it was almost overwhelming. The fierce fire field that was transformed by the powerful force behind the powerful sect of the Yanchu Kingdom, like a magma fire, was heading towards Ye Fuxian, an incomparably huge fire hand stretched out, and was struck towards Ye Fuxian in the void. Ye Fuxian, who turned into a golden ribbon, did not stay in his body. He split it with a stick and opened it, and the big palm split open from the middle. The stick instantly exploded into Yanchu's powerful body. To divide the void into 2 parts. The spelling fire on the powerful body of the Yanchu Kingdom and Law realm burst out furiously, as if the hellish magma fire was heading towards Ye Fuxian's body, but under the stick, there seemed to be a brilliant golden light curtain blocking his body. Open a path, destroy everything, destroy everything. Bang! There was a loud sound without any tension, and the realm of Yunchu Guo Tianzhao was chopped on the battle platform with the stick and instantly descended. Fang Jianging, is it so weak? Everyone trembled. Because Yunchu country sent a strong person, then this law country must also be a genius, and so vulnerable that he fell with a stick. At this time, the faces of the people of the Yanchu Kingdom are extremely ugly and ugly. They used to be sarcastic, what phase of law was defeated by the state of glory, and now they are not only defeated by Ye Fuxian, but also a stick. After Ye Fuxian cut a stick, the momentum in his body not only weakened, but became stronger. Seeing this scene, the big Yanyan who was not attacked by Jiu Jian's face trembled before, and the roar of the demon ape, his body seemed to be attached to the ghost of the demon ape, full of tremendous power. But seeing that Ye Fuxian was coming towards him like a rock, the man had not yet arrived, and the momentum had fallen, as if he could destroy everything. Yes, the Yan great nationalist stepped out, the space became heavier, the demon ape roared, and the rock was shocked. He raises his hand and destroys everything. With a loud sigh, Ye Fuxian was swept away by the second club. The long golden stick is constantly expanding in the pupil, getting bigger and bigger, all the power is crushed, the monster great ape rushes out, but under the stick, it is instantly split open. Bang! There was another loud sound. The body of the Tiangxiang state of the Dian country flew out of the body, and it was faster than the wind. This. Everyone felt speechless for a while, and couldn't use words to describe the current situation. Ye Fuxian's body did not stop at all, and he headed to the 3rd position, still swept away with a stick. Zhong Yun's body was shocking, and the spear was shot without any tension, the spear was broken, and his body was directly bombarded. However, Ye Fuxian saw that Zhong Yun's body actually exploded in the void. A shadow came, like a shadow, almost overwhelming, stabbing Ye Fuxian's body, as if it was a dagger, emitting a cold light in the void. This sudden scene made the hearts of many people tense up, especially in the Kangye country, where their eyes were fixated instantly. Okay. With a low sound, the dagger seemed to open the skin and pierced Ye Fusion's body, where the heart was. However, the dagger was not stabbed, and was caught by Ye Fusion's left hand, but still injured him, and blood flowed out. Zhong Yan looked at Ye Fusion, an extraordinary look flashed in his eyes, and his pure physical strength was so terrifying. Surprisingly, he blocked the blow he was about to kill Zhong Yan. People looked at this scene in shock. This ability, Zhong Yan did not use it when fighting against Su Mu. This punch is too weird. It almost killed Ye Fusion on the spot. However, such a mortal blow was actually blocked by Ye Fusion, showing how terrifying his reaction was. Long Yin's voice came out. Ye Fusion stretched out his arm, and pushed Zhong Yan's body away. Then Duping flapped his wings, followed his body, cut him off with a stick, and made a loud bang. However, all this did not stop. Ye Fusion was very fast, and swept again, sweeping Zhong Yan into the air. Oh! The wings flashed again. Ye Fusion descended into Zhong Yan's body, his eyes were extremely cold, and the killing intent permeated. I know, Zhong Yan shouted with blood, but before the word was gone, he heard a muffled disturbance. Bang! The long stick fell, Zhong Yan's body shivered violently in the void, and then he fell weakly into the air, his arms fell, as if he could no longer lift it. Dead people, naturally can't raise their hands anymore. Chapter 146, Ye Tianzi's Attitude. With a soft sound, Zhong Yan's body fell on the platform and remained motionless. The endless vast void was extremely quiet. For the rest of his life, Su Mu, Ye Fusion, and the Long Clubs who had destroyed the country of law with violent attacks directly claimed Zhong Yan's life. Not only that, but the genius figures of the Yanchu kingdom and Dian kingdom couldn't stand his strength. It never happened for a man to boast to be so strong. Donghai Zugong and the Nandu family are convoluted, and he is becoming more and more terrible. He is already strong enough to beat the first order phase. Once he enters the realm of the law phase, I am afraid that he can destroy the existence of the third order phase. Ye Fusion was not happy with the victor at this point. He glanced at the blood on his chest, his eyes were very cold, and he looked at Luo Tianzi in the direction of the stand. He also listened to Feng Yan's decisive battle, and he saw the battle between Su Mu and Zhong Yan. Zhong Yan had never used such a strange blow before, which seemed to be destined for him, and he was about to kill the blow. And before that, Luo Tianzi had pushed him onto the stage. When Luo Tianzi, Tianzhao listened to the Wind Party has been defeated, and there is no need to do so. Now it seems that a murderous move awaits him. But he can't blame Luo Tianzi, all this happens within the rules. If he dies on the challenge platform, who can say anything? It was he who promised to fight, no one forced him, and the people who fought against him were in the realm of the first order law, and there was no place to go beyond the rules. If he died in battle, Ye Tianzi would not say anything if he was afraid. Ye Fusion can see it, Ye Tianzi can naturally see it too. He glanced at Luo Tianzi coldly, but said nothing. He was really challenged. What can he say? Teach me, Ye Fusion said towards the battle platform. Yanchu and Dian's faces are ugly. In 3 fights, Kangye Guo won. The rest of his life violently destroyed everything, and Yanchu and Dian did not dare to fight. Ye Wuchen abused Yan Qi and defeated the West Tower. Ye Fusion destroyed the 3 phases with the stick and method, killing one method on the battlefield with the power of glory. No one can blame Ye Fusion. Everyone saw it. It was Zhong Yan who wanted to kill Ye Fusion before Ye Fusion hit hard. Even Luo Tianzi couldn't say anything. 4 kingdoms battle, so far. Ye Tianzi said coldly, and then said to Ye Fusion, come back. Wait. At this time, Luo Tianzi spoke, and the words fell, and several figures in the crowd took to the battlefield and surrounded Ye Fusion. These people turned out to be strong guards of the palace. Seeing this scene, the faces of many people changed, and the rest of their lives showed extremely angry expressions. What does Luo Tianzi mean? Ye Tianzi looked at Luo Tianzi coldly. Don't you Tianzi know that Ye Fusion is the rebellion of my Nandu country? Luo Tianzi said lightly, this fellow defied the king's life and killed my subordinates. Jie Fang, the head of the East China Sea government, died because of him, and now dares to return. When you come to Nandu state, you have to be fixie and hope that Ye Tianzi will be perfect. I last confirmed that Ye Fusion is now my Kangye kingdom's man, and someone my godly daughter likes. In the future, Kangye kingdom will be a horse, Ye Tianzi said coldly, looking at Luo Tianzi. The eyes of the two collided in the void, and a powerful airfield enveloped the vast space. The other 6 emperors were all covered up when they saw the scene. It seems that Luo Tianzi's killing of Ye Fuxian is full. But it is clear that Luo Tianzi did not dare to harden it. After all, it was Ye Tianzi who brought it. If I have to kill. Luo Tianzi pointed his finger at Ye Fuxian, and the palace guards immediately rushed to Ye Fuxian, and a horror fell on Ye Fuxian. Ye Fuxian didn't move, still standing there quietly. He naturally understood that Luo Tianzi would easily kill him, but he did not dare to kill him. Are you trying to test my resolve? Ye Tianzi sneered, and then, the boundless swordsmanship was born around the sky, and the sky was filled with clouds and wind, and the sword roared and gathered fiercely. From above the sky, he pointed at Luo Tianzi and the others. The directive includes all the nobles and kings of the Nandu king. At the same time, there was an endless sword whistling past, heading straight for the Nandu king palace. Many people looked up at the sky, only to see the sword never return, straight to the palace, in a very rare place. Secluded, like I can feel the blade. Then I will tell you, if I take him, I will bring him back with you. I can't stop you from killing him, but it's okay to let your blood flow into King Nandu's palace. Ye Tianzi didn't go to see Ye Fuxian. At the same time, both sides knew very well that Luo Tianzi was going to kill Ye Fuxian and no one could stop him. He couldn't kill or was afraid to do it. The reason why he didn't dare was because he was there. No one dared to bet on what Ye Tianzi would do after Ye Fuxian's murder. When Tianzi is angry, blood flows into the river, it is not a threat. In the vast space, countless eyes fell on the two, and the 2 emperors were stunned by Ye Fuxian. Other emperors also watched the confrontation between the 2 emperors secretly. The relations between the nations were very fragile, all battles had to be controlled by rules, such rules existed by default, just like the battles on the battlefield. Now that there was an agreement, the other party had nothing to say. But you can't kill him clearly. Ye Tianzi had announced that he had to protect Ye Fuxian. If Luo Tianzi was going to kill him, it would be a violation of the rules. This is intolerable. Otherwise, Luo Tianzi will kill Ye Fuxian today. Will it be tomorrow again? Can you kill him, prince and princess? Once someone broke the rules and the other party didn't stop, no one would be able to bear the consequences. Although Luo Tianzi really wanted Ye Fuxian to die, no one thought he would actually dare to kill before trying Ye Tianzi's attitude. At this moment, he just wanted to see how tough Ye Tianzi's attitude was. The slightest weakness made him feel that Ye Tianzi did not dare to kill the net, and he could really kill. Obviously, he was disappointed. Ye Tianzi's response to the sky and the sword intent to go to the palace. What are Chu Tianzi and Yan Tianzi thinking? At this time, Luo Tianzi suddenly asked the other two. The eyes of the 2 emperors flashed, and they scolded each other to withdraw into the water. When Ye Fuxian disobeyed the king's life, he was still a member of the Nandu kingdom. I think this matter should be explained. The emperor of the Yanchu kingdom said lightly. You Tianzi have gone too far. Yan Tianzi also said. The two of them faced Luo Tianzi. However, Ye Tianzi didn't care about the emergence of the Nandu country at all. Weren't they afraid of being neighbors? Now, for the best, it was just to maintain friendship with the Nandu country, and not tie oneself up with the Nandu nation's carriage. You have heard the words of the 2 heavenly sons. I promise on behalf of the heavenly sons that as long as you leave people, the grievances between the Nandu kingdom and the Kangye kingdom can be abolished, and the Kangye kingdom will never be moved in the future. The eyes looked at Ye Tianzi. Ye Tianzi had to be very clear about the future that Luo Jun might have after worshipping the Hanging King temple. The digital emperor's eyes lit up. Ye Tianzi, will he consider it? Although Ye Fuxian was extremely talented, after all, he was only an immature arrogant figure, and Luo Junline's future could already be seen. Leaving Ye Fuxian meant that after the rise of Nandu country, Kangye country would not have to worry. Boy Fuxian, then in the future, when the 2 kings of the Nandu kingdom appear, the Kangye kingdom will be in danger. No one can protect, so how to protect a country? Ye Tianzi said lightly, Luo Tianzi doesn't have to waste effort, man, I have to take him away. Ye Tianzi's attitude is still difficult, man, he is bearding. The room is quiet and the atmosphere is a bit stiff. Ye Tianzi refused to back down. Luo Tianzi did not dare to kill. You have to do this. For him, what are the consequences? Luo Tianzi's voice was cold. I was invited to witness the ceremony, but I don't want to have a good party. In that case, I say goodbye. Ye Tianzi looked at Ye Fuxian and said, come here. Ye Fuxian nodded, raised his steps, and walked towards Ye Tianzi. Around Ye Fuxian, the strong are still there. They looked at Luo Tianzi as if waiting for his order. As soon as Luo Tianzi ordered, they killed. But in the end, they did not wait for Luo Tianzi's orders. Ye Fuxian returned to Ye Tianzi. In the distance, a roaring dragon roared, and descended from the sky. From today onwards, I will fight against the Kangye kingdom until the Kangye kingdom is destroyed, Luo Tianzi said coldly. Follow me, Ye Tianzi replied coldly, and then said, Go. The words fell, and the people of the Kangye kingdom stepped on the dragon, and Ye Tianzi finally stepped in. With a long howl, the dragon rose into the air, was shaken, and the swords of heaven and earth disappeared at this moment. Luo Tianzi looked up at the sky, and his cold eyes stared at the group of people, but he saw Ye Fuxian's eyes staring at him without evading. Xiaolong left, headed into the distance, and was about to leave. The rest of his life also stood behind Xiaolong, staring at the figure of Luo Tianzi and others, with a strong intent to kill. Many eyes looked at the dragon, and the figure on the dragon's back. Too dreamy to hear what happened at the party today. This Nandu royal banquet seemed to be held for Ye Fuxian. The man who was only 17 years old caused a strife between heaven and earth. At this time, in the distant void, a very bright light shot towards the side, the dragon body stopped, Ye Tianzi and others saw the light shot out. There is an emperor here. Ye Tianzi glanced, and saw several figures screaming past Xiaolong, without even glancing at them. Ye Tianzi and others turned their heads and looked over there, only to see a light, stopping on the platform to listen to the wind party. Countless figures look up at the sky under the sun, the figures are very dazzling. Did they come to congratulate them again? The breath of these people seems to be stronger than the strong people who have descended from the suspended king palace before, and the whole body shines like a glory. Luo Tianzi also looked up at the sky, his eyes were shining and he was a little excited. After March, the gates of the ancient world will be permanently opened to the land of the 100 countries, and the people of the land of the 100 countries will be free to enter and leave the ancient world. A voice fell from the sky. At this moment, the 8 emperors trembled inside. This sound means a new era is coming. Chapter 147, Influence. Library latest novels upcoming rating category Chat Indonesia. Home The Legend of Fuxian TLOF Chapter 147, Influences The Legend of Fuxian Chapter 147, Influences Prev Next Table of Contents Settings. Ancient Waste, Lucky Land, Prince Road, can lead to the Eastern Desert. For countless years, the ancient worlds have been passed from the land of hundreds of countries. Some people here even know the existence of the ancient world. Even if it grew to a certain extent, it would take a great distance to travel to the center of the Eastern Desert. The land of 100 nations is like the land that the Eastern Wasteland has forgotten. Currently, the ancient worlds are permanently exposed to the lands of the 100 nations, which means that from now on, the geniuses of the lands of the 100 nations will have the opportunity to move to the Eastern Desert stage. In a short time, they may not see much of an effect. With the efforts of generations, the land of the 100 nations will become more and more powerful. Therefore, this voice has a very important significance for the land of 100 countries. Luo Tianzi's excited expression disappeared from his face instantly, and was replaced by an ugly one. Why did he invite emperors from all countries to come to witness the ceremony? Why did emperors from other kingdoms come to congratulate? Because his son Luojun came, he got the fortune of the king in the ancient world, and was rewarded by the king's suspension palace. This requires not only strong talent, but also opportunities. The emperors of all countries may not be willing to give the juniors a chance to enter the world. Ancient. But now, the ancient worlds are permanently opening to the land of the 100 countries, which means that the Tianzhou characters in the lands of the 100 countries will continue to flow into the ancient world, and there will definitely be the evil Tianzhou characters of them. Then Luo Junline's advantage was no longer there. What's more, with Ye Fuxian and his lifelong talent, what would happen if they waited until they reached the pinnacle of the state of lore and the ancient world? It will not be known. Therefore, although this news is also good for Luo Tianzi, he and the genius of Nandu Guo can freely enter and leave the ancient world, but they have no advantage over other kingdoms, and some people even get the same opportunity as Luo Junline. But for the other 7 emperors, this was very exciting news. They all stood up and flashed a dazzling light in their eyes. Talented people who have heard of the ancient worlds also have their own eyes. In the future, their chances of becoming a noble character will be much greater, and they can be in the same world as the Tianzhou people of the Eastern Desert. They will be very interesting. The stage is no longer limited to one country or 100 countries. We have to tell other countries and say goodbye. The figure in the void continued, with no one left, and then turned into a stream of dissipating light. Ye Tianzi glanced at Luo Tianzi with an ugly face, and then the dragon left and left. Luo Tianzi, go. The wind listening banquet is over, and we have also said goodbye. The emperors of various countries told Luo Tianzi one by one. The ancient and desolate world will be permanently opened in 3 months. They had to return to the kingdom to begin preparations. Although there is time in the future, the emperor still some can't wait. Soon, all the emperors of the 7 kingdoms took people away, and Luo Tianzi stood there with a gloomy face. After listening to the wind party, the large crowd was still there, but all that was left from listening to the wind party was chaos. In the 3 battles, the Tianzhou characters who were born after listening to the wind party were completely defeated, and some were even beaten on the spot. At this time, the Nandu country's attention to the wind party, where there is little prosperity, there is only a sign of decline, from prosperity to decline, as if only between night and night. Luo Tianzi did not speak. The endless vast space and countless figures looked calm and depressed. Zhao Xiang looked at all of this calmly, watching this decline, as if he saw the future of Nandu country. Hua Xiang, Luo Tianzi suddenly said. Yes. Hua Xiang stood up. Ready to launch a war against the Kangye kingdom, Luo Tianzi ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. Hua Xiang bowed and ordered. Listen to the feast of the 9 strongest battle platforms and enter the palace for rewards. Luo Tianzi looked at the crowd and said that although Tianzhou who was listening to the wind party today lost his face, he couldn't ignore his promise and he didn't play tricks. Can't let the people of the Nandu kingdom creep up on him. Now that the ancient world is about to open, he needs to win over the arrogant figures of all parties in Nandu country. Maybe some people will be able to get a big chance like Luo Jinlin, although this hope is very slim. All parties in the Nandu kingdom have come to King City. That is the case. In a few days, I will hold another grand event to select the most accomplished person in the state of law in the Nandu kingdom. Luo Tianzi continued to order, and every year in the future once, the time is set at the time of the listening party. Obviously, Luo Tianzi had already prepared for the ancient world. Both the upper and lower realms of the ancient barren realm, and the lower realms of the ancient barren realm, can only be entered by people under the realm of law and realm of law. This year listening to the wind party, this is the end. Luo Tianzi said, a broad and endless figure, but there is no longer any excitement of the heart. Not long ago when I heard of the wind party, what a big event. However, there were only 3 battles, and the momentum of listening to the wind party was completely suppressed. In the first war, the disciples of Ye Zhang, a student of the East China Sea Palace in Donghai City, Nandu State, screamed for the rest of their lives, so that everyone remembered the tyrant's figure and the name of the rest of his life. In World War II, Ye Wuchun was fearless, defeated Yan Qi, and Jian pointed to the West Tower. In the third battle, Ye Fusion attacked Zhong Yan on the platform with sticks and methods. This listening party was like being held for the Kangye country. But ironically, everyone now knows that Ye Fusion and the rest of his life are people from the Nandu kingdom, and they are training in the Wuku Palace in the Donghai Zugong Palace. Ye Tianzi together forced them to leave, and went to another country to enter the Kangye kingdom, which was cherished by the Kangye kingdom. This is the situation at the time of listening to the wind party. They thought, if Ye Fusion and the rest of his life did not leave Nandu country, would the 2 of them listen to the wind party this time, would they stand on the battlefield? Not if. They didn't know that at the last moment before it was coming to Donghai City, Ye Fusion was still thinking of going to Nandu King City to participate in the wind party. Among the crowd, the people who were the most agitated were undoubtedly the people from Donghai City, Donghai Zugong and the Nandu family. At this point, towards Donghai Zugong, Yun Tianho's face was no longer glamorous, and looked extremely decadent. The figure that descended from the sky like a demon was afraid that it would become the shadow of his life. He thought he was very talented, and he was invincible to listen to the wind party, but he could challenge Ye Fusion. But the rest of his life stole all his pride and dignity. After that, Ye Fusion's crushing method made him understand that Ye Fusion didn't bother to fight him. The crowd gradually disappeared. After a while, the vast space around the 9 battle platforms on Fengyan Ban withered and looked extremely gloomy. People from all over have returned, and many people from high-level French realms have left to prepare for another grand event that Luo Tianzi said, but perhaps there will never be a grand event to listen to the wind party. With the return of people from all parties, everything that happened while listening to the wind party quickly spread to Nandu. The names of Ye Fusion and the rest of his life soon spread throughout Nandu, not only because of his dazzling appearance, but also because of the stories they experienced in Nandu. Donghai city has spread the most ferociously, because Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life came out of Donghai city. During the last 2 days of the 10,000-year divine calendar, the will that descended from the palace in the battle of the Nandu family, many people in Donghai city still remember it today, and they are often called after drinking tea. It's just over a month. Ye Fuxian's strong return was devastating. Listening to the wind party, and then there was the roar of the rest of his life. How could he not cause a sensation? At this time, in a restaurant in Donghai city, many people were talking about listening to the wind. It is said that this incident was caused by the prince. In Donghai Zugong that year, the prince wanted Ye Fuxian to follow him, and Ye Fuxian refused. This is what happened later. His Majesty entered the palace of the suspended kings. Ye Fuxian displayed his unrivaled talent. They are all peerless Tianzhou. Nandu Guo cannot tolerate two such dazzling characters. Perhaps they are fatal opponents. 2. You forgot the rest of my life. My master personally witnessed the battle listening to the wind party. He told me that the rest of life is like a demon and is almost invincible. Is that arrogant? Naturally, Yun Tianhao, do you know that the most outstanding Tianzhou in the East China Sea Academy is considered the hope of the future by the East China Academy? He is fascinated by the listening party. No one can challenge Ye Fuxian, and the rest of his life is like a ***** of heaven. Cheer Fan, descended from the sky, stepped Yun Tianhao directly under his feet, knelt to the ground, and then threw him down for the rest of his life, holding his neck without looking at him. After that, the rest of his life destroyed the most dazzling character in the glory of Jiexing. Then, he gave birth to wings, war, torn dragons, and a demon-like roar, which made many people tremble at the feast of the wind. You must know the words that roar throughout your life. Everyone looked gloomy, and someone whispered words from the rest of his life. My name is Yu Sheng, Donghai city of Nandu country, and disciple of Yi Zhang, Lord of Wuku Palace in Donghai Academy, for the rest of my life. This is really arrogant. It sounds bloody now. It's quite a pleasure to have such a disciple in Wukegong Palace, Yi Xiang. Yes, it is said that Yi Xiang left Donghai Zugong and really wants to meet him. I met Yi Xiang at the East China Sea Academy's 7th Palace Conference. On that day he left Ye Haiti with Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life. It was a private matter, said a young man. At this time, in the corner of the restaurant, a belligerent figure was sitting quietly, hearing everyone's talk, but his eyes were a little red, but he showed a very bright smile. I've been sensational over the years. The figure spoke slowly, and then put Dewey down, said, Disciple Lozi doesn't really care, little rabbit, this is your idea. Many people turned their eyes and looked at the man who was talking to himself. The eyes of the young man who spoke earlier changed slightly, and he shouted, Elder Yi Xiang. Yi Xiang looked up, looked at each other, smiled freely, and said, It's me. Boom! The restaurant boiled instantly. Many people were shocked to see this figure appear. Is he Yi Zhang? Many people look different, but now Nan Danguo wants it. Seniors are here, I'm afraid. The young man reminded. Yi Xiang laughed when he heard this sentence, then turned around and left the restaurant. How many people in Donghai city could leave it? Where's the senior? Asked the young man. Go to Kangye Kingdom and find my disciple. Yi Xiang said loudly, stepping upstairs. Chapter 148, Marriage. Kangye Kingdom, Wangcheng. After Ye Tianzi brought people back, people came back and left, and Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life went to the palace with Ye Tianzi. I am afraid that the land of 100 countries will live. What are your plans for the future? Walking on the palace road, Ye Tianzi asked Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life. During the trip to the Nandu country, the relationship between the two sides also seemed close, like an old man and juniors. I walked across the barren ancient realm. What's in it? Ye Fuxian asked. I only went to the ancient desert, but the ancient desert has not been there. As for what is inside, luck, coincidence, secrets, and others are no different from the outside world. They are all in the gates, troops, and cities. You can consider it the emblem of the eastern region. Ye Tianzi said, but it is much more dangerous, the battle is fiercer, and the killing is very common. Therefore, I recommend that you enter the high-level law environment. I don't want to wait any longer, Ye Fuxian whispered. Luo Tianzi said that he will start a war against the Kangye Kingdom, fearing that there will be no fakes. Luo Zhenlin will also go to the Hanging King Temple to train. My national strength in the Kangye Kingdom is not weaker than that of the Nandu Kingdom. If he wants to go to war, it will be a matter of time, even if you don't. As for Luo Zhenlin, it is really a problem. Because of the reason, the emperors of all countries faced Luo Tianzi. Ye Tianzi said. Ye Fuxian remembered the attitude of the two heavenly sons of the Yunchu kingdom and the Dian kingdom before, and smiled. They supported Luo Tianzi to stay with me because of Luo Jun's arrival, and gave Nandu rural faces. Are they not afraid to offend me? You. Ye Tianzi glared at Ye Fuxian. Although this person's talent is extraordinary, after all, it is only a state of glory. The future is too far away. Luo Junlin is not the same. It was already a victory to bring the prince to the palace of the suspension king. Just stepped into the prince, this needs to be chosen. At that time, the news that the ancient and ancient worlds opened had not yet arrived. Hated. Ye Fuxian was a little depressed. They will regret it. The rest of his life speaks earnestly. Ye Tianzi looked at him. He could see it. As long as it is related to Ye Fuxian, this man is very serious. He thought, what is the relationship between the two? Well, I also believe they will regret it. Ye Tianzi nodded. All right, you go. They said goodbye and headed to the mountain where the teacher was. On the mountain, knowing that Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life returned, everyone came out and gathered together. Ye Fuxian's eyes fell on the flower, and he was waiting for something. Teacher, has the soul recovered? Well, we have to do a good job in accounting for this period of time. Who often became my disciple last time in Qingyun? Hua Xiao looked at Ye Fuxian. Ye Fuxian cursed, and surely his father must have his daughter. The smile. Teacher, don't you know that, it's all for your parents' consideration. Besides, I brought the old lady back to your parents. Ye Fuxian looked at Nan Duanyan. By the way, my wife-in-law. Ye Fuxian saw the flower was still watching him change the subject. Did I promise you? Hua smiled. I only bullied my disciple. I am not satisfied with a good disciple. After all, I have already assigned Fu Si to Fu Tian, don't you agree? Nandu Wenning said next. Hua glanced at Nandu Wenning, and said with a hint of depression, you have the final say. Ye Fuxian blinked and slipped beside Nandu Wenning, saying, it's better to be a woman. Depending on the situation, I will have to get along with my brother-in-law in the future. Fuxian, CU is training in retreat, and after the state master heals your teacher's wounds, he is busy with things in CU's practice. Nan Duan said, his voice was soft, and he looked at Ye Fuxian with a depressed feeling. This attitude is too different, right? Ye Fuxian looked at Mohe, the Chinese teacher standing behind him. He looked a little older, and asked, what happened to senior? It's all about understanding the language and treating your teacher's wounds, but the country teacher hasn't done it yet. Nandu Wenning said a little embarrassed. The princess doesn't have to worry, my nation's soul is already strong, and CU has evolved again, very talented, I naturally want to do my best. Mohe sighed, if you could meet CU earlier. Before in Donghai city, Nandu country, no one knew the life soul of the royal family, nor did they understand Sheiyu's life soul. Now they are lucky to meet master. Hua Ye also said, the old royal family protector of the Nandu kingdom, who followed Emperor Nandu to fight, he is undoubtedly the person who knows the soul of the kingdom the most, and his ability to train is also special. Ye Fuxian smiled when they heard the conversation. It seems that the fairy talent is better than expected, and it is certainly good to be able to meet the guidance of famous teachers. How about in Nandu country, isn't the wind party upside down? Hua asked Ye Fuxian again. I only fought one battle. Ye Fuxian shrugged. Is he the kind of person who likes to stand out? Is there no news from Lord Agong? Hua asked again. At the start of the battle in the East China Sea, Ye predecessor left safely. If he is still in the Nandu kingdom, he should know our news. Ye Fuxian groaned, and with the roar of the rest of his life, he believed that it would spread throughout the Nandu kingdom. Is that true? Ye Qingshuan looked at Ye Fuxian. Listen to the wind to feast on the 9 battle platforms. Each battle platform wins one of the strongest. The last 9 people have attracted a lot of attention. Your man is good. Go up and kick one of them under your feet. Tear off one of the strongest in the power of law, and shouted at the people of the Nandu kingdom for the rest of his life, disciple Ye Xiang, what do you think? Ye Fuxian looked at Ye Qingshuan. Everyone heard Ye Fuxian's words and looked at the rest of his life, this person is too fierce, right? Ye Qingshuan's eyes stared at the rest of his life, his eyes were bloodshot, but he saw that he was scratching his head like a big kid. Stepping forward, Ye Qingshuan's small fist fell on his chest for the rest of his life. Can Juanai change places? Ye Fuxian smiled. Okay. Ye Qingshuan smiled at him, and then left for the rest of his life. Herr Fuxian, they talked about what happened in Nandu country again, and then went to practice. The ancient and ancient world is about to open up. Luo Junlin was going to the temple of the deferred kings to train. The war between the Nandu kingdom and the Kangye kingdom is about to break out. Time is short. Ellipsis, ellipsis, ellipsis. Not long after, the land bordering the Kangye kingdom and Nandu kingdom broke apart, and the Nandu kingdom invaded. Of course, the Kangye country had long been prepared, and had witnessed the actions of the Nandu country. There was a war between the two countries. A few days later, someone from King Oba's palace came to visit and said it was a teacher for the rest of his life. Ye Fusheng, Yu Sheng, Yi Qingshuan, Tang Lanhua and others came to see each other, and then they saw Yi Xiang. Father. Yi Qingshuan ran forward and rushed into Yi Xiang's arms, tears welling up. What a stupid girl crying, just happy. Yi Xiang rubbed his daughter's head and smiled gently. Teacher, Yu Sheng and Tang Lan stepped forward. Senior Yi, Hua and Nandu Wenning also shouted. At first, Yi Xiang entered the Nandu family for Ye Fusheng and Wajayu, risking their lives. Then, to help their family escape, he went alone to intercept Ziwei. Gong Gongju. Yi Xiang looked at the people, and then said to Tang Lan, everyone's family is here. What are you following? Teacher, Tang Lan was awkward. Senior Yi, Nandu Wenning stepped forward and said, I have been thinking about marriage with Tang Lan, and now that you are here, Senior, just happened to do this in person. Everyone's eyes stagnate, looking at Nandu Wenning, even the flowers don't know about it. Wenning, you, Hua said. That year you lived up to Tang Lan. Now, do you want to do it again? Nandu Wenning looked at Wada with a wry smile. What are you talking about? Tang Lan looked at Nanduan. Don't give up your life. After so many years of experience, don't you still want the so-called handle? If you can put it down, why buy a piano garden and then keep it for him? Nanduan Yin looked at Tang Landau, so Tang Lan didn't know how to refute. Ye Fusheng was stunned and saw all this. The teacher took the initiative to find a woman for the teacher. He thought, should we let Shiyu learn more from the teacher? When Yi Xiang saw Tang Lan did not deny Nandu Wenning, he looked at the flowers, then said, this matter is fine. Teacher. Tang Lan looked at Yi Xiang. At that time, you could have looked at me for her, but now you don't have the courage. Yi Xiang looked at him and said, rest assured that I am here, whoever dares to bully you, I will make up my mind and succeed. How can he not understand the mind of the apprentice? If it is not deep, how can he stay with flowers all the time? But if he has no name, he will leave sooner or later. At that time, I am afraid that he will be alone again. I also think it can be achieved, Aunt Tang. Should I change my voice to call the second sister in the future? Ye Fusheng also said, he is one of the people who see this relationship very clearly. Because the teacher took the initiative to make it happen, not without reason, Yi Xiang glanced at Ye Fusheng. His eyes seemed to tell you that the boy knew the truth. At this time, Ye Lingxi came here. Why is the princess here? Ye Fusheng asked. I heard that Yi Zhang's predecessor is here, thinking of coming over to take a look. Ye Lingxi smiled. Yi Xiang was a little confused, and said, Princess is polite. That's rude. Today, the seniors in Iraq are legendary. Father Wang also wants to meet. In order not to disturb everyone, the father prepared a dinner to welcome the seniors. Ye Lingxi said, okay, I have to be there. Yi Xiang nodded. Then I will say goodbye. Ye Lingxi smiled gently, then turned around. It's a good mix. Yi Xiang glanced at Ye Fusheng. The princess came to invite herself. Ye Tianzi held a banquet to welcome him. Obviously, it wasn't his face. He also heard that Ye Tianzi fought with Luo Tianzi to protect Ye Fusheng. That is, I am a disciple of the Wuku Palace, how can I humiliate you? Ye Fusheng laughed. Makes sense, let's go. Yi Xiang nodded, and the group walked into the palace, with bright smiles on their faces, and now they are all together. Ye Tianzi's dinner was naturally harmonious. Chapter 149, Advent. Welcome, please remember the address of the site, mobile phone to read, so that you can always read the latest chapter of the novel, Fushengshi. Time passed, and it was almost 3 months before Nandu country heard the Wind Festival, and the ancient world would soon open up. The land of 100 countries shook, and the great kingdoms did not know how many strong men set out for the gates of the ancient world. The mighty army set out, and all parties went to Tianzhou. The same applies to the Kangye kingdom. In Wangye city, all Tianzhou parties and strong forces gathered to prepare to go with Tianzi. Ye Tianzi will personally accompany him to protect Tianzhou to the ancient world. Royal Palace, on a hill. These days, Ye Fusheng and the rest of his life have retreated and been rehabilitated. He had gone even further and stepped into the realm of 9-star success, just one step away from the far phase. Today, Ye Fusheng ended the retreat. It's enough. In the courtyard, Tang Lan saw Ye Fuxian smiling, but she had not seen this man for several days. Second master, you are getting more and more beautiful. Ye Fuxian looked at Tang Lan with a smile. On that day, after the wife proposed, a few days later, under Yi Zhang's testimony, Hua Fengyu and Tang Lan held a simple ceremony. Weddings are truly family today. Itchy skin. Tang Lan looked at Ye Fuxian with a smile. The bastard is very big or small, but he also finds that he looks better, maybe in a good mood. Second mother, I'm telling the truth, you and your teacher are indeed more beautiful, Ye Fuxian said, sincerely. Tang Lan glanced at her sharply, then she didn't look at her. Tang Lan Kiao turned around and turned a little red, like a girl. I envy the teacher. Ye Fuxian sighed in his heart, and then said, I will go down the mountain. After saying that, they left the courtyard and descended the mountain. They came to the palace and found Ye Dungeon and Ye Lingxi. Several people went to see Ye Tianzi together. I heard you've been training in retreats lately. How did you get out of the house? Ask Ye Tianzi, in a few days, we will go to the ancient world. I think it will go together at this time, Ye Fuxian said. You will enter the ancient world of glory. Ye Tianzi glared at him. Do you know how big this formation is? The land of 100 countries is shaking. I can't imagine how many people will come, not to mention, this is only he is a strong person in the land of 100 countries, not a person in the ancient world. Your current level is very low. Your Majesty does not mean that there is no difference between the scorching and ancient world and the outside world, except for a lucky chance, and it is as if they have gone to train. Your Majesty is confident that I will act humble, Ye Fuxian said. If you leave, Luo Tianzi will definitely arrange for someone to deal with you, Ye Tianzi said. Well, this is a problem. Otherwise, His Majesty borrows a few pieces of artillery, attacks the defense, escapes, and so on. How much? Ye Fuxian smiled thickly, with a sincere smile. Ye Tianzi looked at Ye Fuxian with a smile. Now he could see that this kid couldn't be too familiar with him. He could not believe that this person would not consider Nan Du Guo. It was obvious that he had purposely made up for it by borrowing a magic weapon. Can I pay it back? Seeing Ye Tianzi not speaking, Ye Fuxian continued, Your Majesty, this time the 100 nations Tianzhou went to the ancient world. As a horse of the Kangye country, I can't embarrass you. That makes sense. Ye Tianzi smiled and looked at Ye Fuxian and said, You went alone. The rest of my life should be together. Ye Fuxian said. The two of you will take him and the rest of your life to the treasure hall to choose a magic weapon, Ye Tianzi said to Ye Dungeon. Your honor. Ye Fuxian laughed. Ye Tianzi was able to fight for him and Luo Tianzi. He naturally knew that he would not hesitate to possess some artifacts. He owed these things in his heart. The gate to the ancient desert can't accommodate the breadth of the sky. Even if it is equipped with a magic weapon, it can only be a top level. Also, a magic weapon can only increase strength. It doesn't allow you to directly have a top-level combat power of the magic phase. The use of magic instruments is not conducive to spiritual growth. If it is really necessary, don't rely too much on magic instruments. Ye Tianzi reminded. Your Majesty, rest assured, I have something in mind. Ye Fuxian said, if it is not too low, he will not think about the magic instrument. Ellipsis. A few days later, there was a slight chill on the mountain in the morning. Many people gathered in the courtyard, and Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life were preparing to go to the desert. Yi Xiang is going with him, and he himself wants to enter the Uranus ancient court. Fuxian, be careful in the ancient world, Nandu Wening ordered. Mother-in-law, don't worry, I'm fine. Ye Fuxian nodded, I will go and see the interpretation. Nan Duing nodded, and then Ye Fuxian headed to the back of the mountain. He sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, and his eyes closed. Around his body, there is an invisible mental aura, many stones float in the air, rotating regularly around his body. The aura between heaven and earth also seems to have a fixed trajectory, surrounding the body of Waji language. It was as if everything in this world could communicate and control mentally. Ye Fuxian had a wonderful feeling. When he walked into this spiritual aura, his body seemed to be enveloped in that spiritual aura. He has this feeling in the battle in front of Ziwei Palace, and this time is getting more and more intense. I'm leaving, and I'll bring you back next time. Ye Fuxian watched Hua Jiu sit quietly like a fairy, with a gentle expression and a bright smile on her face. Then turn around and get out of here. They walked down the mountain and came outside the palace. At this time, a large crowd gathered outside the palace, including several acquaintances. Tianzhou Ye Wuchen on the Fenwa list also decided to leave. Now Ye Vachan has been repaired to a third-order state of law, and the ancient world naturally doesn't want to wait for the future. Many people in Kangye Academy will also enter the ancient world of abandonment. The academy uniform dress really stood out. Zhao Qianfan and Yu Jing were among the crowd, obviously wanting to test with the campus brothers. King Zong in the Beast sect also had many strong men, and Bai Qiu was also there. Even Lin Yao would also leave. Feng Hua's party and listening to the Wind Party touched him deeply. After 3 months of training, he finally entered the realm of the French phase. Now he is preparing to enter the ancient world with his powerful family members. There are still many Zongman family troops that Ye Fusion doesn't know about, and they are ready to leave. It seems that I can't wait. Ye Fusion secretly said in his heart that the mysterious ancient world is too tempting, and many people in the lower level law realm can't wait to step into it. Of course, in addition to the people in the country of law, there are elders from various major powers, who are strong in the realm of the heavens, and they want to go to the ancient world in the wilderness. At this point, in the direction of the palace, Ye Tianzi led someone. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Many people shouted, standing next to Ye Tianzi, a young man with a sword and eyebrows, with an extraordinary temperament, was Ye Tianzi's eldest son, Ye Zhu, who was cultivated at the top level of the Fa. Ye Fusion saw Ye at the Fenwa banquet, but was barely touched because Ye Dunchen and Ye Lingxi were the same age as him, so they knew him better. Ye Kui will travel to the ancient world. Ye Dunchen and Ye Lingxi will not enter because they are inferior. In addition to Ye Yan, there are many high-level figures in the realm of law behind Ye Tianzi. They are all elite guards trained by the palace, and they will enter the ancient world with them. You are ready. Ye Tianzi glanced at the crowd, and everyone nodded, then saw Ye Tianzi said, Go. The words fell, and the party was mighty, rose into the air, and proceeded towards a certain recipe. The dragon was emptied. Ye Tianzi led the palace man to stand on the dragon's back, and other people of various powers showed their magic power. The beast sect had the most monsters, and the ranks were terrifying. At this time, the black wind statue on Lulong's back landed and appeared beside Ye Fusion, lying on his back. Many people around me looked at Ye Fusion in surprise. This person is now very famous in Kangye King City, only a monster like that. Maybe too cold. However, Ye Fusion seemed to be careless and rubbed Black Wind Carving's head. This monster beast friend was bestowed upon himself by the seniors of the Snow Ape, and despite this relationship, he followed him for so long, and naturally also had feelings. Already. Although the Black Wind Carving talent is common, how about it, won't it change? There was only one entrance in the land of the 100 Nations, and it was located on the border of the territory of the 100 Nations moving from the Kangye Kingdom. Ye Tianzi and the others had traveled across several countries along the way and arrived after a few days. This is a mountainous area. When they reached their destination, Ye Fusion found that the majestic palace was built on all sides, as if they had a lot of sectarian power, unlike the barrenness in Ye Tianzi's mouth. The place, quick action. Ye Tianzi glanced down and made this barren land like a city, with majestic buildings rising from the ground. He naturally understood that troops from various countries had taken possession of the site. It is rumored that many of the top forces in the eastern wasteland built the entrance to the ancient world, and directly occupied the entrance to build the gate. The children of the martial arts can freely enter and leave the ancient world at any time. But I worry that no one has the ability to monopolize the entrance, Ye Tianzi said. When everyone heard Ye Tianzi's words, there was a slight wave in their hearts. This is the gap between great power and ordinary power, and they regard the ancient world as their own spiritual source. And the people of their land of 100 countries had just gained the qualifications to step into the ancient world, and they were somehow left behind. Everyone looked ahead, and saw a beautiful space in front of the void, which seemed a bit distorted, and there was a huge door above the void. There was a huge array below. A terrifying beam of light emerged from the center of the terrifying array, which penetrated the power of the prince and shone on the door in the void, causing the door of the ancient world to be distorted. Revealed. This formation must be carved by the strong in the eastern wasteland, and it must be arranged here to open the door to the ancient world. At this time, around the space, there are many powerful figures gathered. The emperors of all the countries in the country's lands personally lead the team, and the ranks are all very strong. Ye Tianzi stopped their figure. Not far from there were several Tianzi characters looking at this sight, showing a faint smile, and another royal man came over. Chapter 150, Eat Fragrant and Spicy. Welcome, please remember the address of this site, mobile phone to read, so that you can always read the latest chapter of the novel, Fusionshi. You are TNZ. Not far away, a prince in the prince realm shouted to the side, apparently knowing it. Ye Tianzi smiled slightly as he looked at the other side, and said, Ha Tianzi came very quickly. I was late, and when I came here, all the palaces were built. Ha Tianzi laughed. Just a waste of time, said another emperor, standing on the top of the mountain with his hands on his back, showing his arrogance. It is true that the use of vacant lands and ancient territories to seize land is useless. The most important thing is to seize the prince, and the birth of the prince. Of course, if the Tianzhou prince's descendants consider the prince to be valued by a great power, it is all the same. How easy is it to get the prince of the prince? This grand array of travel is strong, but how many people can really be the climate? Yuzi was not optimistic. There are so many arrogant people, there will always be evil devil characters born. As long as the princes can be born, they will be noticed by the great powers of the eastern wasteland. It is true that the Nandu Prince Kingdom heard this, and the suspended King Palace accepted him as student. I heard that Ye Tianzi went to Nandu to have a big fight. I was only invited by Luo Tianzi to watch the ceremony. Ye Tianzi smiled slightly. Why is Ye Tianzi humble? It is said that Kang Yeguo has 3 born villains, and they show the brilliance of the party at the listening party. Unfortunately, they are low level, or they will shine in the ancient world. Ha Tianzi laughed. Ha Tianzi is in a good mood. He must be very confident with Tianzhou behind him, Ye Tianzi replied. The emperor spoke casually, and the young people behind them all looked sharp and looked at the people in other kingdoms. This journey to this ancient world must win the prince's fortune. If it can be judged by the great powers of the eastern wasteland, it will be like Luo Jinline. From then on, the sky will fly, and the emperors of all parties will go to congratulate. It was only accepted as a disciple by the palace of the overgeared kings. It would be a beautiful sight if he came back from being a prince in the future. Ye Tianzi, don't come without a fool. At this time, not far away, a group of mighty figures came to the side. Ye Tianzi turned his eyes and looked at the people from Chu Tianzi and the Yunchu kingdom. Among the people in the Yunchu kingdom, Chu Quangren was also there. His sharp eyes swept across the crowd behind Ye Tianzi, and then his eyes fell on Ye Fusion and Ye Wuchen, with cold eyes. Ye Fusion felt as if he saw Chu Madman looking at himself and smiling at him. The smile fell on Chu Madman's eyes like an irony, and his eyes were slightly colder. The people from the Great Yan Kingdom and the Nandao Kingdom also arrived. After seeing the people from the Kangye Kingdom, their eyes turned to the side. Luo Tianzi even ordered some things to the people next to him, but he didn't expect Ye Fusion to dare to enter. Ancient world. Time passed, and more strong people came. Around the formation, a vast space of rioting aura gathered in the formation, and then shot at the gate of the empty and ancient realm, making the door twist even more. Many eyes looked at the empty door, and there was a strong hope in his heart. There is a terrible movement in the void. The twisting gate of the ancient world opened from the middle and turned into 2 halves. Then a dark vortex appeared and alternated. It engulfs everything like a black hole. There is a powerful force around him that wants to make it again closed, but blocked by a powerful force shot in formation. No wonder that the ancient world and the lands of 100 countries have no chance. Everyone secretly said that with the abilities of the people in the land of the 100 countries, it was impossible to have such a formation. The mighty strongmen gathered and headed for the void, like a terrible army. Remember, the people under the heavenly position should not carry sky-high artifacts, and the ancient world gates will be integrated into one. The old and ancient world gates can't hold the breath of the sky, and they will send you to the ancient world. Remind again, afraid that someone might be lucky to secretly carry a heaven-level treasure. Let's go. I will return to the prince's treasure in the battle in this ancient world. The voices came out one after another, the soldiers poured into the huge vortex of the void, and then the body disappeared. Go. Ye Tianzi also said, and immediately Ye led the strong people of the Kangye kingdom to start. Ye Fusion followed the team and stepped into the vortex. A terrible power came. Then he felt nothing but arrogance. Twisted and swallowed into the unknown space. Ellipsis. Explosion. With his body on the ground, Ye Fusion stabilized his body and stared at the world. The blue sky and white clouds, the vast earth, finally can't be seen at a glance. This magical world is no different from the outside world. Around, the people of the Kangye kingdom descended one after another. They passed through the vortex together and descended together. Looking back, the black hole space is still there. Ye Fusion looked at Ye Yan, who was not far away, and said, Your Majesty, let's go. Before that, Nanduguo's people kept staring at him, afraid that he wanted to deal with himself, but he didn't want to get involved with the other party. This time to the ancient world of the desert is for experience, Father and King explained, don't rely too much on others, Ye Fusion, we will not advance together. Ye Yan looked at Ye Fusion Road. Ye Fusion froze, and saw many people walking towards Ye Yan, who was from Kangye Academy, which made him show a strange color. With an indifferent smile, Ye Fusion said, farewell. The rest of my life, Ye Fusion shouted, and then stepped on the black wind carving. The rest of his life also appeared, glancing at Ye Yan coldly. Ye Fusion took out a magic weapon, and suddenly a strong wind spell landed on the black wind carving's body, and their figures turned like a gust of wind. After a while, the strong people of the Nandu kingdom also came to the ancient world and fell in another direction. They looked at the Kangye kingdom crowd, but they didn't find Ye Fusion's figure. They couldn't help it. What about people? A group of figures came to Kangye's country, and asked indifferently, what about Ye Fusion? Ye Yan glanced at each other coldly, and ignored him. Go after him. Among the crowd of Kangye Academy, Zhao Qianfan said coldly, and the people of the Nandu kingdom turned their eyes, then waved, chasing. Ye Fusion's progress sometimes moves sideways, avoiding straight lines, and continuously applying maggots. The speed is very fast. Behind black wind carving, the wind was blowing towards him. Why did Ye do this? The rest of his life asked. Now who doesn't know Ye Tianzi appreciates them? Ye Fusion and his talent are also very dazzling. I heard that Kangye Academy's background is the royal family, and a princess training in the academy. Ye Fusion smiled indifferently. At the time of the wind party, he made Kangye Academy extremely shameless. Of course, this is not the main reason. Ye Fusion looked at the rest of his life. Your Majesty really values us, and we have a good relationship with Ye Dungeon. The rest of his life was cold, and he said, we never thought of participating in your family affairs. But others don't think so. Ye Fusion smiled. Don't think about this trivial matter, like this time, isn't this great? Ye Fusion looked at the vast land in front of him, only feeling open-minded. Ever since he practiced, he had been held back everywhere and was a bit depressed. The world of freedom, from now on, the birds fly. The rest of his life is looking forward, and he also gives the meaning of being open-minded. He said, the people of the ancient desert can only accommodate those who are in a state of law. We can conquer it within 5 years. Can you keep quiet? Ye Fusion glared at him, only then did Glory Realm think of conquering the ancient world. This is a powerful genius with the entire eastern wasteland. The rest of his life is staring at him, and this person also knows inferiority. Ye Fusion looked at the front and smiled, and whispered, is it too long for 5 years? The rest of my life flashes. Both run without interpersonal relationships. The ancient and ancient realms are the epitome of the eastern wasteland, but the people under the sky are still very vast. For several days, Ye Fusion could occasionally see monsters circling in the void. There are also beasts on the ground, even those with the law level. There were monsters staring at them. Ye Fusion ignored them, and continued. However, at this moment, there was a monster circling in the void and following them all the way. It was a French coward at a fast speed. Ye Fusion looked at this Feng Peng, only feeling that the other party had a beautiful rhythm when he flew. He was free to observe his thoughts and observe Feng Peng's actions, and he found that when this Feng Peng flew, he sometimes became one with the wind. Okay, the rest of my life, Ye Fusion shouted, and the rest of his life took a step behind black wind carving. He held the big hammer, and the breath of the 9-star glory was released. As if feeling his weak breath, a fierce light flashed in Feng Peng's eyes, and turned into a gust of wind to catch the black wind carving, his claws gripping the rest of his life. For the rest of his life, his body flickered, and he jumped down, the wings, and the hammer in his hand released a breath of horror, emitting a dazzling golden brilliance, crashing into Feng Peng. Feng Peng seemed to sense danger. When the hammer fell for the rest of his life, his body accelerated, turned into a remnant image that followed the wind, instantly rushed through the rest of the attack range, and headed straight for Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion has been staring at the opponent's movements. He held a stick in his hand. At this moment, a green light was released on the stick, and a wood attribute aura suddenly soared into a frenzy. Qianteng Lock bloomed, and was covered by Feng Peng's body. The rhythmic power above Feng Peng's body reappeared. However, this time, the Chitto Lock spell seemed to predict his direction, locked directly, and then wrapped his body. For the rest of his life, his body fell with a hammer. Feng Peng let out a hissing sound, and his body fell to the ground. Yu Peng's meat is eaten. Ye Fusion said. Diao landed. Not long after, a fragrance emerged from below, 2 people and 1 beast enjoying the delicious taste of roasting Feng Peng. At this time, Ye Fusion raised an eyebrow, and the breath of his body was released. This, luck. Ye Fusion showed a strange look, and then let out the same breath for the rest of his life. Ye Fusion looked at the black wind carving, and then saw the black wind carving's body emptied, flew in the air, and a beautiful rhythm was born. At this moment, Ye Fusion seemed to understand something, and a smile appeared in his eyes. It turned out to be luck. Ye Fusion whispered, and a black wind eagle descended in front of him, showing his pitiful eyes. Want to eat? Ye Fusion looked at Haifengdiu's eyes, rubbed his head and laughed. Relax, I will bring you delicious and spicy food.